Well, we got UFC Fight Night 168, which will take place in Auckland, New Zealand. Now I'll break down the main card. The first match is the one between Kevin Aguilar and ZUBAIRA TUKHUGOV. Kevin Aguilar fights out of Longview, Texas, rising a score of 72. And to be honest, he is the former LFA featherweight champion. His UFC run kicked off great as he decisioned Rick Glenn and Enrique Barzola, but then Ige taught him a lesson in June last year, and since then, this lovely fighter, TKO finisher, he hasn't had a match, but he was defeating, strong, powerful names. On the other side, ZUBAIRA TUKHUGOV is Khabib's good friend, master of sports in combat sambo and hand-to-hand combat with a score of 18-4-1, and he is pretty much a solid fighter, a solid name, who knocked out Vaso Bakočević before joining UFC, and then kicked off with 3 wins over Douglas Silva de Andrade, Ernest Chavez and Philippe Nover. Suffered a split decision loss to Renato Moicano, and scored a draw against Leron Murphy. I think ZUBAIRA TUKHUGOV is more all-rounded fighter than Kevin Aguilar, and I believe ZUBAIRA TUKHUGOV has better chances to win here. The next one is Magomed Mustafaev versus Brad Riddell. Brad the Quake Riddell comes from Auckland, New Zealand, rides on a score of 7-1, and he had debut at UFC 243, where he scored the decision win over Jamie Mularkey. The other side, Magomed Mustafaev, comes from Sochi, Krasnodar Krai, Russia, or Makhachkala, Dagestan. Both are under his score, rides on a score of 15-2, and he competed at Legion Fight and One Challenge Sochi Star Club, and then after a victory over Abubakar Nurmagomedov, he arrived to the UFC, where he TKO'd Piotr Halman, Joe Proctor, and Rafael Fiziev in one of the best matches ever, spinning back kick to the head and punches. He lost to Kevin Lee though, but he had ups and downs, but his score is 3-1, which is kinda good. Jamie, I don't know, I think Brad Riddell is a bit weaker opponent for Magomed Mustafaev's class, but I don't know, we're gonna see. Magomed Mustafaev is a fantastic finisher. On the other side, Brad the Quake is a ground guy, so we're gonna see, but I give advantage to Magomed Mustafaev. Marcos Rogerio da Lima versus Ben Susoli. Marcos Rogerio da Lima is a tough Sao Paulo guy from Ribeirão Pires, Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's where he fights off, who rides on a score of 16-6-1, and the guy had so many ups and downs. He loses wins. He KO'd Richardson Moreira, TKO'd Igor Pokrajac, lost to Nikita Krylov, arm triangle choked Clint Hester, lost to Gajimura Dantigulov, defeated Jeremy Kimball, lost to Vincent Pruvia from full choke, decision done with Chorek, and finally lost to Stefan Struve. Despite he was kicking his ass, Struve didn't land a single strike and then just submitted him via arm triangle choke. On the other side, Ben Combat Wombat Susoli rides on a score of 7-2, and he had 2 no contests, interestingly, against Dustin Johnson and Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy, due to the inhalator, against Dustin Johnson due to an eye poke, but previously he was finishing many opponents. He is a finisher with great KO, TKO ability, but Marcos Rogerio da Lima, well, this guy is tough, he's a Brazilian wrecking machine. He knows to submit, he knows to punch, and I predict a wonderful stand-up war is going to happen. I don't know who's gonna win, maybe this will even go to judges' scorecards or decision, but maybe I slightly lean towards Ben Susoli, you never know. KAROLINA KOWALKIEWICZ meets Jiang XIAONAN. Jiang XIAONAN is actually one of the toughest Chinese women that have ever competed in this lovely sport, with a score of 11-1, no contest, and she fought at Road Fighting Championship, where she scored 2 wins and 1 loss, and she is now on a perfect score of 4 decision wins in a row over Kaylin Kuran, Vivian Pereira, Yuri Kondo, and Angela Hill. So yeah, this is a tough Chinese girl, she knows Sanda and BJJ, so this girl is tough. KAROLINA KOWALKIEWICZ, you all know this lovely girl from Lodz, Poland, Muay Thai Krav Maga specialist, and generally she is now the former KSW flyweight champion and the vacant KSW flyweight champion. So actually, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz in a strawweight championship strawweight title. So she is a long-time UFC veteran and long-time UFC girl, and now she squares off against this dangerous opponent. I believe that Karolina Kowalkiewicz will have a hard time against this Chinese girl, and this could probably go to judges' scorecards of decision. Karolina Kowalkiewicz lost 3 last matches to Jessica Andrade, Michal Watterson, Alexa Grasso. This is to be or not to be for her, so I believe Karolina Kowalkiewicz must win here. Now, the co-main event of the evening, the match between Jimmy CRUTE and MICHAL OLEKSIEJCZUK. Jimmy the Brute CRUTE is a black belt in BJJ with a score of 10-1, and he is the former Hex Fight Series light heavyweight champion who mostly finishes opponents via armbar or TKO, and Dana White's Contender Series he defeated Chris Bircher via TKO, submission Paul Craig, TKO'd Sam Alvey, but Misha Tsirkunov stopped him via Peruvian necktie. He squares off against Michal OLEKSIEJCZUK, dangerous Polish fighter with a score of 15-3, 1-no contest. He is the former vacant TFL heavyweight champion, and against Khalil Roundtree, the bout was overturned to no contest because he was positive to Clomif, and then he TKO'd Gianvillante Gajimura Dantigulov and lost to Vincent Prue via choke. If the fight goes to the ground, Jimmy CRUTE has more chances, but if the fight remains standing, I definitely give advantage to Michal OLEKSIEJCZUK. And now, Paul Felder versus Dan Hooker. Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, Taekwondo, Karate, Muay Thai, BJJ, purple belt in BJJ, black belt in Shotokan Karate, and black belt in Taekwondo. A devastating striker with a score of 17-4. He had ups and downs at his UFC run. He is the former CFFC lightweight champion, and then definitely in the last 3 matches, decision loss to Mike Perry, decision win over James Vick, decision win, split decision over Edson Barboza in a very, very controversial match. He knows to finish his fighters, especially via elbows, and his elbows are his most powerful side, just like his spinning heel kick. And generally, Dan Hooker, he is a devastating New Zealand finisher, the former ASC lightweight champion, the guy who only has 1 decision win. When you fight him, you simply can't go to decision. He only lost to decision to Jason Knight, Yair Rodriguez, Maximo Bianco, but he always fights until the last dying breath. And this guy, he also lost a split decision to Rob Licita and Adam Calver, but he goes for the finish, he goes for the knockout. This fight is not going to last 4 rounds. Both fighters are great finishers, great strikers. I predict the KO is going to happen maybe in the 2nd, 3rd round. I lean towards Dan Hooker, but we're gonna see what happens in this fight.